welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam. So today is the last chance for those of you out there who are looking to get the free copy of Swan Song. Today is your final opportunity. After today, it will no longer be available for free. You will have to pay the $2.99 or read it through Kindle Unlimited, where it's still free on Kindle Unlimited, but it's only it's $2.99 if you want to own it in your library. But today's the last day to get it for free. Today being Friday the 10th of December. Then Monday starts up Duet for free. So if you want to run out and get that, that will be bit.ly/ATSWANSONG, and you can pick up a free copy. And if you can leave a 5-star review, that'd be great. Even if you don't believe it, it'll help the algorithm bump it up to the top, so that way other people will buy it. And we have cool things we want to do in the future that we do need money for, and the money from that does go to cool stuff for the show, the cool things budget. I think that early next year I'm going to do like an announcement of what our cool things budget goals are for the year. If we can hit certain milestones, just that way people know what it is that we are, doing, and what it is we want to do and want to cover. But it requires money. We would require money for that, so, that's something we would need to, probably going to do it early next year. What else we got? Let's talk about The Flash Armageddon. The Flash Armageddon, I've said it before about this show. This is what an event series comic feels like. Not a earth-shattering maxi event like Crisis on Infinite Earths or, Infinity Gauntlet or anything like that. Because, the closest we've gotten to a maxi event on the big screen, I think big screen, small screen, in live action, I think the closest we ever got to that would be, what was the movie? Infinity War. Is, I think, to this day, still the best representation of a maxi event on screen. For an event comic, like, say, what was that other one called? Deep Impact, I believe is the name of it, which is going on now with... I read the first issue. I wasn't too thrilled. It was the one with Green Arrow and Aquaman team up. But, take that. This is what this would feel like if it was a, what's it called? If that was a, what's what I'm looking for? If it was that, in something like that, or some other, event, where it's there are other, limited series events. I'm not talking big, earth-ending, earth-shattering kind of thing, where it's if you took that, and when you read these, it's there are characters from other shows that show up all the time, or other comics that show up all the time, and they kind of, migrate in and out, and just kind of commingle and all that kind of stuff. Now, I think advancing to 2031 for this episode is smart to bring in the new Batwoman, and have some kind of resonance, because looking at where we are right now, the last interaction there has been with a Bat anything is what's it called? Probably Crisis. Yeah, probably Crisis, when Barry interacted with Kate Kane constantly. And now Kate Kane is first dead, then resurrected as Red Hood, and now Ryan Wilder's in the suit. Barry hasn't interacted with Ryan Wilder yet. So, do not make it where we have to have introductions taking up screen time, which admittedly probably would have been better than the dumb subplot of Allegra and what's his name? The other guy, the new Cisco. where they had hooked up and then didn't talk for years, and Alex and Ryan are playing matchmaker between the two of them. Like, arguably, it would have been a better use of time had they just done it in the present. I understand why it has to be in 2031, and it kind of works to an extent, but I don't think you necessarily needed, like, that to take up that much. We just talked about this with Hawkeye. Like, trim the fat. Trim it. Keep the show lean. I don't need to see this fucking nonsense. It's like, it is such a waste of time. It is such a waste of resources. It is such a waste, period, to sit here and pad the runtime with this bullshit. Like, why the fuck is this a thing? Why am I being made to watch this nonsense? Where there are other avenues you could have gone instead of wasting this time. It's like, this is probably the most egregious since, like, the 100th episode of Arrow fell in during Invasion. So an episode of Invasion ended up being a retrospective on Arrow at the same time, and it's like, who gives a fuck? I don't give a fuck. Like, what the fuck? Why is the thing? And I kind of feel standing here with this, it's like, I don't need this running subplot. Like, it feels like a waste of Alex. It feels like a waste of Ryan Joy. It doesn't feel like a good use of any of the characters in the sequence. It kind of just feels like they were like, well, these characters are here, what are we going to do with them? Oh, I know. And the thing is, too, it's like, I don't think that Allegra and Chester's his name. I don't think Allegra and Chester really had any kind of romantic entanglement before this point, where it's like, oh, okay, I can see that. Like, it just kind of feels kind of tacked on, because it's like, well, we need something to do, fuck it. Like, whatever. So, in a world where that's happening, I don't understand, how we're at this point where it's like, just trim this bullshit. Like, and I do like that it is kind of, reverse Flashpoint. And I think that this next episode has to end. Like I said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago. It was probably last week. This episode has to end with Barry going back in time with Thawne to the night that his mother was murdered. Because that's the night that, to prevent the reverse Flashpoint. Where Barry's murdered and then, all of that happens. That's what this is. It's a reverse Flashpoint universe. Thawne went back in time, fucked the timeline, and then fucked with, and then fucked with, Barry himself, killing Barry as a child, and it's like, well, here's what we'll do. Like, so Barry ends up having to team up with Damien Darhk to fix everything, and I think that Damien Darhk, despite appearing in what I think is hands down the worst season of not just Arrow, but any DC show on the CW, he has really grown into one of the most textured villains that they keep going back to, and understandably, because it's such an easy motivator, is that the entire time it's all about doing things for his daughter. That's all it's ever been about. And then it's like, there was something else that bothered me. It's like, you have this massive crossover, and it's like, and then John Constantine gave us gave us an enchantment, to keep us from, keep us from being killed, and it's like, yeah, but you couldn't just show us John Constantine? Like, was Matt Ryan unavailable? Did you lose the jacket and the tie? Like, I can promise you that motherfucker's not busy. Like, it's not like he does a ton besides playing John Constantine. Like, you could have got him. Well, Legends is going on. That's why there's no Legends characters yet. It's just Legends is currently ongoing at the same time, I believe. But it just... and that's the thing, is it, like... it feels like... Sorry about the cough. I usually can catch it, but that one stuck up on me. Like, it feels like, they didn't know how to handle the fact that there were no Legends characters there. So, they kind of have to, do that. And it's kind of funny that, like, Barry, Barry managed to kill the Legends with Damien Dark, allegedly, but not Thawne, real Thawne. Well, really, this is just Doom World. Like, that's really all this world is. It's Doom World from Season 2. Like, what the fuck? It all goes back to, when we were introduced to Thawne. I don't think it was, in that episode of, of The Flash at the end of Season 1. But when we were introduced to him in Season 2, when he came back, The Return of the Reverse Flash, I think the episode's called, where Thawne returns, and it's Matt Ledger, not Tom Cavanaugh in the suit, and it's like, well, he, in the quote-unquote origin story for him, they talk about, how all he ever wanted was to be like Barry. Like, he saw the story of the Flash, and this wasn't Season 1, he saw the story of the Flash, and he just wanted to be him. And then he found out he wasn't going to be him, and it drove him insane. And he went back in time to try and kill Barry as a baby. And now we have to reach the point to close that loop. We need to close that loop at some point before this show ends, and I'm fairly certain this is the end of that line, where we need Barry to go back to the night his mother was murdered and fight the Reverse Flash. We need Barry to go back in time and save his own life and send young Barry away. We need Barry to see himself and want to, and see himself who's there to change the past, and then wave himself off, so that way he can, we can get everything that happens after the fact. That, it's like, Barry's story, his origin, is a closed time loop. And we need to get to the start of it now, or the end of it, or, the other end of it, where we see him in the future dealing with that. Like the key parts of Barry's story, there are 4 or 5 versions of Barry in that room, where it's like, there's going to need to be like a number system at a deli to see who goes where, and who enters the room at what point pretty soon, because there are so many iterations. But we're getting to the point now where it's the versions that we're fighting in the future are the future versions who were fighting in the past are going to be able to go back and do that fight, and I'm all for that. I want to see this and give that as a give that as the end of this. I think that's a great way to end off this crossover, and I think it would save the crossover to an extent. Because really, as it ended in this episode, it feels kind of wrapped up. It feels kind of done. Like, we don't need, really another episode. Like, honestly, we know that the Reverse Flash is not going to just finish off there. We knew the Reverse Flash was going to, was going to, come back and be like, well, fuck me, fuck you. Because that's his entire MO. Like, his entire thing is fuck me, fuck you. And I think that, like, had he come back, had he not come back, that would have been a departure for the character, I think. Because that's not like Eobard Thawne, because he doesn't take a loss laying down. And I do really like the way he explains his plan. And the whole thing is, everyone was like, oh, is that a reverse still force? What's he doing? How's he doing this? And it's like, nope, he just used his speed the same as every time before this. There is nothing new. No new ground is being tread. There is absolutely nothing new going on here. And I feel like that's an interesting decision, and I feel like there were better ways to do that. But it also makes sense because it's like, oh, well, here's a negative still force. Like, that's a lot. That's a lot to go through. And I saw an article, it was like, they're wasting Despero, and I'm like, who the fuck cares? Like, do you know how many villains have been wasted on this fucking show that now in Season 8, you're feigning incredulity over the fact that fucking Despero didn't get his quote-unquote due? Like, what the fuck? Why is that something that, like, you know, we should be, like, you know, upset about? Like, he's not a villain that's widely heard of. Like, I can understand if it was, like, Vandal Savage was the villain, or, like, Starro the Conqueror was the villain, or, like, any number of other villain was the villain. Like, classic villains, but no, it's like, I don't understand the I do understand the feigned incredulity. It's just, you know, they're wasting Despero. It's like, no, it's like, you know, no one cares enough about Despero to be able to say, like, oh, well, he should have been treated better than this. It's like, who gives a fuck? Also, this show, not a documentary. Comic books are fiction. These characters do not really exist. And it's like, I like, they needed to do something because it is very hard to come up with a Justice League level threat, that is not, you know, that's not just too easy and easy to dispatch. And the thing is, too, it's like, I've said it again, I'm going to say it again, this is not really a crossover. This is organically what it should feel like with these shows, where it's like, look, I get that COVID's a thing and COVID's a problem, and that's going to lead to issues where, like, we're going to keep the cast self-contained, but in a perfect world with shows like this and movies like this, there should be this kind of, like, free movement of characters between shows, where it's like, we don't necessarily need to have them here every week, but there's no reason why when we have an alien question, Alex doesn't show up, or Kara doesn't show up. And that's the thing too, it's like, because this is done in this way, there are times where it kind of makes sense that, you know, Kara's not there, and like, John Jones isn't there, and you can understand why that is. You can look at this show and be like, oh, okay, well, you know, they're not there because it's not this giant, you know, event that we need to all team up together to fight one bad guy. So it's kind of that kind of thing where you look at it and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't know. It feels like it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I like it, but at the same time, there were definitely narrative shortfalls over the course of this show. Like, the amount of time that was spent with fucking Allegra and Curtis, I think his name is just fucking ridiculous. Like, it's unnecessary. It's like, at a certain point, I have to be like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. Like, I really don't care about these characters. And the thing is, Ryan Choi has only ever appeared on Crisis, and they never really address that, like, you know, he was on Crisis, and, you know, they don't really address that, like, you know, he or anything about that, really. Like, okay, he's on Crisis, and then he's not there again, and then all of a sudden, here he is again, and now he's in this comic-accurate suit, it's just like, cool. Can we get him on Legends? Or, like, get him doing something besides these fucking crossovers? Like, again, actor doesn't look very busy. Like, can we just make him a series regular somewhere? There is no reason why, when Ray left, the Atom had to leave too. Like, because they could have just passed it on, because at that point, they have already introduced Ryan Choi. And they already introduced him as a character, and I think that would have been a lot cooler. Like, had they brought him on The Flash to replace Cisco, that would have been fine. Like, I don't know why this wasn't an idea that was floated, besides the fact that they can't have him grow and shrink, because that would be too costly to the budget. But no, they just haven't used. It's like having a toolbox full of stuff, and then tools, as some would call it, and then rather than like using the hammer to drive a nail, they're using a fucking drill, and it's like, well, why isn't this working? It's like, well, because you have the right tool there, you're just not using it. And I feel like that's another misstep, and it just highlights the problems where it's like, we have the Atom there, and he's just kind of there. Now, I am curious as to how they fold Mia into the next episode, because it doesn't seem like there's a purpose to them going to the future. Because that, like, at this point, they don't really have a need. Well, I mean, unless Barry's like, okay, I'm going to go to the future to make sure everything's okay, so I'm going to check on Nora and, what was it? Nora, who's the other two? Nora and Bart, and then I'll see how Mia's doing too while I'm over there. Unless that's what they're going with, then I don't think that that's a thing. And it's like, I think that for the remainder of the season, depowering Barry to an extent was a smart idea, because I think if we had Barry at the height of his power for the entire season, it would be too easy to handle any problem that comes his way. And then at the same time, I can do without these fucking pep talks. I don't need Damien Dark giving him a fucking pep talk. So yeah, so we'll wrap up there for today. Later today we have West Side Story, and I'll see what else is coming this week. So until then, have a great rest of your week.